Nestled deep within a secluded valley, surrounded by towering emerald-green mountains, lay the secret village of the gnomes. The valley was a paradise untouched by time, where tiny mushroom-shaped houses dotted the landscape, their roofs glowing softly under the golden afternoon sun. A narrow cobblestone path wound through the village, leading to small wooden bridges over trickling streams. The scent of wildflowers and fresh earth filled the air as bees buzzed lazily from bloom to bloom. Oliver the gnome sat outside his cozy mushroom house, carving a new star from an old oak branch. He was a clever little gnome, always ready for an adventure. His red hat was slightly tilted, and his brown leather satchel hung across his shoulder. Though the village was peaceful, Oliver had a curious heart, always looking beyond the valley for mysteries to uncover. Just as Oliver finished carving a smooth spiral into his staff, the ground beneath him trembled. A deep, guttural rumble echoed through the valley, shaking the trees and sending birds flying from their nests. The leaves rustled as if whispering warnings to one another. A few gnomes peeked out of their homes, their tiny faces filled with concern. Oliver stood up quickly, gripping his staff. His sharp ears caught the distant sound of rocks tumbling down a cliff. His heart pounded with excitement. He had heard rumors that strange things were happening near the old stone bridge, a place at the edge of the valley where few gnomes dared to go. Was this a sign of danger, or a call for adventure? Either way, Oliver knew he had to investigate. Determined to uncover the source of the mysterious rumble, Oliver set off through the forest. The trees here were ancient, their twisted roots snaking across the mossy ground. The deeper he ventured, the quieter the world became. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. As Oliver walked, his keen eyes spotted tracks in the dirt, large, clawed footprints that did not belong to any creature he knew. A shiver ran down his spine. He quickened his pace, following the winding trail toward the old stone bridge, a place where legend spoke of monsters lurking beneath the shadows. At last, Oliver reached the edge of the valley, where the old stone bridge stretched across a raging river. The bridge was ancient, cracked with age, and covered in creeping ivy. Beneath it, the water churned violently against jagged rocks, sending up sprays of mist. Oliver's sharp eyes scanned the area. Something felt wrong. The air smelled damp and sour, and the hairs on his neck stood on end. Then, suddenly, he saw movement, a massive, dark shape lurking under the bridge. He held his breath as he crouched behind a boulder, watching. Oliver barely had time to react when a small billy goat trotted up the path toward the bridge. Its fur was white and fluffy, and it had tiny, curved horns. It walked boldly, unaware of the danger lurking beneath. Just as the little goat set foot on the bridge, a deep, menacing growl erupted from below. The bridge trembled. A gigantic, hideous troll emerged from the shadows, covered in warty green skin, with sharp teeth and glowing yellow eyes. It roared, its voice shaking the very stones beneath it. Oliver's eyes widened. He had never seen a troll before, and this one looked hungry. The little goat froze in terror as the troll raised a massive clawed hand. Would it be too late to save the goat? Just as the troll lunged at the little goat, the clever animal leaped high into the air. The troll's massive hand slammed into the bridge, causing loose stones to tumble into the river below. The goat landed gracefully on the other side, bleating in triumph. The troll growled in frustration, its yellow eyes burning with rage. It snorted angrily, then stumped back under the bridge to wait for a bigger meal. Oliver let out a breath of relief, but he knew this was just the beginning. The bigger goats were still coming, and the troll was still hungry. The forest was silent again, except for the distant sound of hooves approaching the bridge. Oliver peeked from behind the boulder and spotted a larger billy goat making its way toward the river crossing. This one was twice the size of the first, with strong legs, curved golden horns, and a thick coat of gray fur. It walked with confidence, but Oliver knew it had no idea what was waiting beneath the bridge. As the goat stepped onto the stone pathway, the troll's yellow eyes flashed in the darkness. A deep, bone-chilling growl echoed through the air, making the trees tremble. The troll emerged once again, its massive green form towering over the bridge. The ground shook as it stepped forward, its huge, clawed feet leaving cracks in the stone. The troll lunged forward, its massive clawed hand reaching for the goat. But this goat was not afraid. It lowered its head, planting its hooves firmly on the stone, and let out a loud, determined bleat. Then, with lightning speed, the goat charged. It slammed its golden horns into the troll's stomach with incredible force, knocking the creature backward. The troll stumbled, its huge feet scraping against the edge of the bridge, sending small rocks tumbling into the river below. But the troll was not defeated yet. With a furious roar, it swung its massive arm, narrowly missing the goat, but shaking the entire bridge. Oliver held his breath. This fight was not over. The troll, though knocked back, was still dangerously strong. It growled and prepared to lunge again. But the smart goat had a plan. Instead of fighting head-on, the goat stepped backward, luring the troll closer to the edge of the bridge. Oliver suddenly realized what the goat was trying to do. It's a trap, he thought. The troll, blinded by rage, stumped forward without thinking, until its huge foot slipped on the loose stones. With a loud, panicked roar, the troll lost its balance. It flailed wildly, arms swinging in the air, before tumbling over the edge. The giant creature crashed into the icy, rushing river below, disappearing into the swirling waters. The goat, standing tall and proud, let out a victorious bleat before trotting off the bridge safely. Before Oliver could fully process what had happened, he heard heavy hooves approaching. A shadow fell across the bridge as the largest billy goat of them all arrived. This one was massive, nearly twice the size of the last, with thick, dark brown fur and mighty curled horns as strong as iron. The ground trembled beneath its weight as it stepped forward. But something was wrong. The troll was not defeated yet. To Oliver's shock, a giant green hand burst from the water, grabbing onto the bridge's stone edge. The troll was climbing back up. This time, its eyes burned with fury. It was angrier than ever. It pulled itself onto the bridge, water dripping from its slimy skin, letting out a terrible roar that shook the entire valley. The giant billy goat pawed at the ground, lowering its enormous horns. It snorted steam, showing no fear of the monstrous troll. The two locked eyes, and for a moment, there was complete silence. Then, boom, the battle began. The massive goat charged forward, slamming into the troll's chest with such force that the bridge shuddered violently. The troll staggered backward, but it refused to fall again. It let out a furious roar, grabbing onto the goat's horns with its enormous clawed hands. They wrestled, pushing back and forth, the ground beneath them cracking under their strength. Oliver knew he had to act fast. If the battle continued, the entire bridge might collapse into the river. Oliver's heart pounded as he watched the troll and the mighty goat locked in battle. The bridge trembled beneath their weight, and cracks spread like spider webs across the stone. If this fight continued, the bridge would collapse, and they'd all be doomed. He had to act fast. Oliver quickly scanned the area. Then, his sharp eyes caught sight of a fallen tree nearby. It was thick and sturdy, resting right at the edge of a steep hill. A brilliant idea sparked in his mind. If I can roll that tree onto the bridge, Oliver thought, it might knock the troll off balance and send it plunging into the river for good. With no time to waste, Oliver raced up the hill, gripping his wooden staff tightly. He would need every bit of his gnome strength to push the tree into place. Oliver reached the fallen tree and braced his tiny hands against its rough bark. He pushed with all his might, gritting his teeth as the log refused to budge. Below, the battle raged on. The mighty goat and the troll were locked in a brutal struggle, hooves and claws scraping against the stone. The troll let out a bone-rattling roar and lifted its massive fist, ready to slam the goat into the ground. Oliver gave one final shove, and suddenly, the tree began to roll. With a loud crack, it tumbled down the hill, gathering speed as it went. It slammed into the bridge just as the troll raised its arm for a final strike. The massive log slammed into the troll's legs, catching it completely off guard. The troll let out a furious roar as it stumbled backward, its massive feet skidding over loose stones. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The troll flailed its arms wildly, trying to regain balance. Its glowing yellow eyes widened in horror as it realized there was nothing behind it but empty air. Then, with an earth-shaking crash, the troll toppled off the bridge. It tumbled through the misty air, roaring all the way down before plunging into the raging white-water river below. For a second, there was silence. Then, with one final, mighty splash, the troll disappeared beneath the swirling currents. Oliver barely had time to celebrate before a deep, ominous crack echoed through the air. He looked up in horror. The bridge was breaking apart. The troll's enormous weight had weakened the old stone, and now huge cracks ran across the entire structure. Rocks began tumbling into the river, and the middle of the bridge started to cave in. The mighty billy goat let out a startled bleat and quickly turned, galloping toward the safety of the other side. Oliver sprinted down the hill as fast as his little legs could carry him. If he didn't move now, he'd be trapped on the wrong side of the river. The bridge gave one final groan before collapsing completely. Stones crashed into the river, sending up a mighty spray of water. Oliver leaped to the last second, diving onto solid ground just as the last piece of the bridge crumbled into nothing. He landed face first in the grass, panting heavily. The mighty billy goat stood beside him, snorting in triumph. The troll was gone, the bridge was destroyed, and at last, the valley was safe. One by one, the three billy goats gathered around Oliver. The smallest goat nuzzled his shoulder, while the middle goat stamped its hooves in approval. The largest, mighty goat bowed its great head in respect. Oliver smiled, wiping dirt from his face. "I guess that means, you're welcome," he thought with a chuckle. With the troll gone, the goats were finally free to roam to the greener fields beyond the valley. With the bridge gone and the troll defeated, the valley felt peaceful once again. The wind carried the gentle rustling of leaves, and the sun peeked through the clouds, casting golden light over the rolling hills. Oliver sat on the soft grass, catching his breath. The three billy goats stood beside him, their ears twitching as they watched the river flow freely. The largest goat, the mighty leader, turned to Oliver and gave a final respectful nod before leading its brothers toward the distant green fields. Oliver smiled, watching them disappear over the hill. They were finally free to graze in the richest meadows, and the valley was safe from the troll's terrible reign. But now, Oliver had a long journey home. He dusted off his red hat, adjusted his leather satchel, and took one last look at the remains of the bridge. With a deep breath, he set off down the winding forest path, eager to return to his village and tell the tale of his grand adventure. After traveling through forests, across streams, and past towering mushrooms, Oliver finally reached his home village, a magical place hidden among twisting tree roots and glowing lanterns. As soon as he stepped onto the cobblestone streets, the village erupted in excitement. Gnomes gathered around, their tiny eyes wide with amazement. "The troll is gone," one shouted. "You saved the valley, Oliver," another cheered. Before he knew it, Oliver was lifted onto the shoulders of his fellow gnomes, who paraded him through the village in celebration. The air filled with music, laughter, and the warm glow of fireflies as the gnomes celebrated their new legendary hero. As night fell, the village gathered around a giant bonfire, eager to hear Oliver's tale. He stood on a wooden stump, his red hat slightly crooked, and began to tell his story. Every gnome, young and old, listened in awe as he described the battle on the bridge, the clever rolling log, and the final defeat of the monstrous troll. By the time he finished, the village erupted in cheers. The legend of Oliver the Brave was born. Years passed, and the legend of Oliver the Brave only grew stronger. The valley remained peaceful, with no troll ever daring to return. The three billy goats thrived in the lush green fields beyond the river, growing stronger and wiser each year. In the gnome village, Oliver's tale became a favorite bedtime story for young gnomes. Parents told their children about the tiny hero who outwitted the monstrous troll, reminding them that even the smallest creatures can do the greatest things. As for Oliver, he continued his adventurous life, always searching for new mysteries to solve and new creatures to help. But no matter where his journeys took him, he would always be remembered as the gnome who outsmarted a troll and saved the valley. And so, under the glow of the moon and the twinkle of the stars, the legend of Oliver the Brave lived on forever.